So hope you all are fine. You're doing well. You're understanding and following things that have been explained to you people. So previous session we started with the practical exam programs. So we will be continuing the practical programs, practical C++ programs. Hope you have understood the programs that has been explained in the previous session. So in the previous session we had a discussion on insertion sort and calculation of the simple interest and quadratic equation program. So today we will have discussion on a few more C++ programs. The programs today what we will be discussing here is the function overloading, inline functions and inheritance. Let's get started and check out the first program, that is the function overloading. As we study a concept called polymorphism, one name, many forms. Polymorphism refers to one name, many forms. As we discuss, we study that the OOP languages, object oriented programming languages, they support polymorphism. As C++ is a OOP language, it supports all the concepts of object oriented programming, in which polymorphism is also one of the topic, right? The polymorphism that is implemented in C++ using function overloading. So function overloading, the theoretical part we have already discussed. Let us see a brief discussion as to what function overloading is. Function overloading, as the concept of polymorphism is implemented in the form of function overloading in C++. If one more question can be asked, how is the concept of polymorphism implemented in C++? So you need to write, the concept of polymorphism is implemented in C++ using function overloading and operator overloading. For your syllabus, you will be learning what function overloading is. So just check out this example where we have my function, my function, my function. There are my 5 functions. There are 5 functions by name my functions. All the 5 has same name. What changes? So here you can see the first function do not take any argument. The second takes one argument, third takes another one argument. Then how do we differentiate? The second takes one integer argument, and the third function, it takes one argument but the argument data type is float. Then we have 2 more functions, my functions, with 2 integer arguments and 2 float arguments. Sorry, one integer and float and one float and integer. The order has been changed. So same function name, different arguments and functionality. So defining what is function overloading. We are defining multiple functions with the same name and we are changing the argument list either by number of arguments or the data types used in the arguments, so we can overload a function in C++. See here you can see int max, float max, int a comma int b, then we have float max, float a comma float b. So we are comparing. So if a is greater than or equal to b, we are returning a, else we are returning b. Both function has same body, but the problem the difference between both is the first function will compare 2 integers and the other one will compare the float values and return the maximum or the highest among both. So here the max function is overloaded. So let's check out the practical program using this concept, that is the concept of function overloading. Program to find area of a square, rectangle, triangle using function overloading. Say, to find a area of square, we require one side. One side is required. So A into A. To find the area of rectangle, so we require length and breadth. Two values are required. To find area of triangle, we require three values, A, B and C. Three sides. So we use the concept of function overloading, that is, we define all the three functions with the same name, area, area and area. So IO stream to include input and output statements. Then we have IO manip, as we will be using endl and setw. Then we have three area functions. One will take one argument, second one take two argument, the third one will take three arguments. One will return A into A, as the area of square is A into A or S into S. The area of rectangle is L into B, whereas the area of triangle is root of S into A, S into S minus A into S minus B into S minus C. So here we have class, and the name of the class is fun overload. And then we are calculating, taking S to calculate the semi-perimeter. Then we are taking three functions, area, area, area. One area with one argument, another area with two arguments, the third area with three arguments. First we will calculate the area of square, second we will calculate the area of rectangle, third we will calculate the area of triangle. So square, to calculate area of square only one side is required because all the sides are equal. To find the area of rectangle, we require length and breadth. To calculate area of triangle, we require three sides. Triangle has three sides, that sides are required to calculate the area. Let's get started with the main function from where the execution starts. Say double x, y and z. We are taking three variables. Fun overload F1, we are creating the object. Enter number of sides, we are asking 1, 2 or 3. So we are asking to enter the number of sides. So we are asking to enter the number of sides, that is 1, 2 or 3. So 1, 2 or, so here, one moment. So we are accepting the size. So that is, we are asking the user to enter the right sides, that is 1, 2 and or 3. So see in answer, if answer is equal to 1. So 1 means we will calculate area of square, and to calculate area of square, enter the side. So only one value we are inputting, and we are calling the function area of square f1 dot area of x. We are passing only one value. When we pass only one value, then the statement x into x will be executed. And then next we will continue. If enter number of sides, if user has given 2, that means the answer, if it is 1, we are calculating area of square. Suppose if the answer is 2, that means user wants to calculate area of rectangle. So then we are accepting two values, that is x and y. So x into y, then we will call the function. So you can see here, if answer is equal to 2, then we are asking enter two sides, that is x and y. Now area of triangle, we are calculating area of triangle by passing x and y, that is two values. X into y will be the area of triangle. Then if the answer is 3, then we have to accept 3 sides. That means we are calculating area of triangle. This is not required. Set precision is not required. So area of triangle, area of x comma y comma z. You can observe this statement. Here it is area of x and y. So we are calculating, if answer is equal to 2, we are calling area by passing 2 arguments. If answer is equal to 3, we are calling area by passing 3 arguments. And if answer is equal to 1, that is only one side, we are calling area with one argument to calculate area of function. If user enters 4, 5, 8, minus 1 other than 1, 2, 3, then we are printing invalid input. The choice is given is only they have to enter 1, 2 or 3. So here as you can see, the choice is given 1, 2 and 3. Other than 1, 2 and 3, if user enters any other value, so we will print input is invalid. So we will not be able to find or perform any calculations. So this is about how we can implement function overloading. So you can see here we have function overloading. We have 3 functions: area, area, area. One area with 1 argument, one area with 2 arguments, another area with 3 arguments. So when the function is called, so if 1 argument is given, then the first function is called. If 2 arguments are given, then the second function, that is to calculate the area of rectangle, that is called. And if choice is 3, that means there are 3 sides. In that case, the third function which will calculate the area of triangle, that is called. So this is how the function overloading is implemented in C++. So let us have a check on the output, a sample run when we execute this program, how this program output could be. Enter number of sides 1, 2 and 3. If user has given say 1, so if user choice is 1, then we are calculating area of square, that is 4.5 into 4.5. So then we have, if choice is 2, then we are calculating, we are accepting enter 2 sides 4.5 and 2.75. Then we are finding area of rectangle 4.5 into 2.75 is equal to 12.375. In the next run, if the user enters sides as 3, that means the first size is 2, 3.5 and 2.75. So root of s into s minus a into s minus b, then we are printing the area of triangle. If the input is 5, we are asking the user to give number of sides, that is 1, 2 and 3. If users enters 5, so for 5 we don't have any calculation, so we print invalid input and we terminate the program. So this is how the function overloading is implemented. Now let us discuss the topic called inline function. So inline function in C++. Let us see what the inline function is. The inline function means the function call is replaced by the function body. So here we have my function. So you can see here my function, and my function has one statement, that is hello. So when my function is called, instead of my function, the statement cout hello is replaced. So let us check one more example here. So here you can see, so int mult, it has only one statement, return x into y. So as in the main function, when mult is called, compiler puts this statement, that is return x into y here. So inline function means replacing the function call with the function body. Function call means mult a comma b, body is A into B. So that means, so we are replacing the function call with the function body itself. So it is called inline functions. So let us see a very simple program where we are using the inline function to calculate cube of a number. So here we have a program. The name of the program is class assign. So here we have assign function. So assign function has one value, data member, that is n, and then we are taking a constructor with one argument, and then that argument will be assigned to the value of n, and then we have a function called cube. So you can see here int cube. So cube is not a normal function, it is an inline function. So inline function means the call is replaced by the function body. Sometimes the body is so small that when a function is called, the control is transferred from main to the calling function, and from the after execution from the calling function it returns back to the main. The time taken to send the control from main to the calling function and from the calling function back to the main, in much less time the function body can be executed. So instead of wasting the processor time in exchanging the control from one function to another function, we can replace the function call with the function body. That is called inline function. So here you can see void main. So int n, enter the number, we are accepting a number. Then here we are using copy constructor or a constructor with one argument. So that will initialize n value to n. Then we are calling n dot cube, which will calculate the cube of the given number and it returns the result. Let us check out the sample run for this particular program. So enter a number, the number given is -5. So cube of -5 is -125. So another example where when the input is given 0, the cube of 0 is again 0. Enter a number, the number given is 10 and cube of 10 is 1000. So this is how the cube function executes. So constructors. What are constructors? So constructor is a special member function which will have same name as the class name. Constructor will have same name as a class name. It is very similar to a member function, but it's a special member function. It's not a normal function, it is a special member function. Why is it so special? Because it initializes the object. So constructor, it will automatically gets executed when an object is created to the class. So C++, it supports three types of constructors. That is default constructor, parameterized constructor and copy constructor. Default constructor means constructor is a special member function which will have same name as the class name. So suppose you are giving class name as A, constructor will also have name A. Like in the previous example, class name was assign and there was a function called assign. So which took one argument, that is nn. So that is parameterized constructor. So if constructor does not take any argument, that is called default constructor. Then we have another type of constructor called copy constructor. The copy constructor, it will copy an existing object to a new object. The entire object is copied to another object. So C++ we have three types: default, parameterized and copy constructor. So now we are using a constructor in the following program. This program calculates the series 1 plus x squared up till x to the power of n. So now we have variable, sum and term. So term is like x, x square, x cube. Calculate will find the sum of the series. Copy, as you can see, the class name and the constructor name is same. As there are parameters temp and x, this is a parameterized constructor. It is a parameterized constructor. So constructor will have same name as the class name. And if constructor uses parameters, we call it as parameterized constructor. So here this constructor, a parameterized constructor we are using, first value will come to var and second value will come to term, that is x. So here we have double copy calculate. So we are calculating the series here. Sum is equal to 1 because series starts with 1 plus x. P is equal to term. Okay, term we are accepting how many terms now? N, that is number of terms. For I is equal to 1 till I is less than or equal to var. So sum is equal to sum plus p. So we are calculating each term. So p is equal to the term. Now p is equal to p into term. Each term we are multiplying and storing it to p, and p is added with sum. Each time every term is multiplied with p and p is added to sum. So you can see here p is equal to term. Term is initially term will be 1 and then that will be added to sum. Sum will be 1 plus 1. So we are adding 1. Then p is equal to p into term. We are taking next term, that is x, and that will be multiplied with p and then p is added with sum. Like this a series is calculated. Void main, now we are accepting x and n because series starts with 1 plus x square plus x cube till x to the power of n. So we need to know x and n. So here we are accepting x and x and n to t and n. Now we are creating a object by passing n and t as the argument. Then we are using copy constructor here. That means we are copying, see obj is existing and cpy is the new. So we are copying a existing object to the new object. So we are copying a existing object to the new object. That means we are using copy constructor. So you can see here. So we are calculating the series by calling a function obj.calculate that will calculate the series. Let us check out the output of this program. So here we have, so imagine the base and the power given is 2 and 5 and the result is 63. Let us see how this has been calculated. So x is equal to 2 and n is equal to 5. That means we have to multiply or add the series until 2 to the power of 5. That is 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16 plus 32. So 1, 2 to the power of 0, 2 to the power of 1 is 2, 2 to the power of 2 is 4, 2 to the power of 3 is 8, 2 to the power of 4 is 16 plus 2 to the power of 5 is 32. So the sum what we are getting is 63. The topic, one of the important topic discussed in C++ is inheritance. Inheritance is acquiring the properties of one object into another object, or we can reuse an object. Existing object can be reused. Code reusability is the main functionality of inheritance. So C++ support different types of inheritance such as single, hierarchical, hybrid, multiple and multi-level. For your syllabus, you will be studying single inheritance. Let us see what single inheritance is. In single inheritance, there is one base class and one derived class. So class B is derived from class A. Class A is the existing class. The existing class whose properties are derived is also called base class. The new class which you are creating, where you are using the properties, it is also called derived class. So as you can see, the single inheritance. So single inheritance, there is one base class and one derived class. Let us see how this concept can be included or implemented using C++. Let us write a C++ program where we can derive a class. So create a base class containing the data members, roll number and name. We need to create a base class with roll number and name. Also create a members to read and display the data. Using the concept of single level inheritance, create a derived class that contains marks of two subjects and total as the data members. So let us check IO stream for using CIN and COUT, IO manip for including endl and ZW, then conio.h. Then we have roll number and name, and this is the base class. So we are having read which will accept roll number and name, then display which will print the roll number and name. This is the base class. This is base class. Now kindly check the name of the base class is student. Now we will create a derived class. The derived class name is marks. And how do we know it is derived from student? With this statement. So you can see public student. So it has marks details and total. So class marks, then we have public student. The name of the class, derived class is marks, and it is derived from student. It has M1 and M2 and total. We are accepting two subject marks, we are calculating the sum and we are printing. So then we have display which will print the subject marks and the total. So observe here, student marks has two members, read 1 and display 1. Student has two members, read and display. Marks is derived from student. So student is the base class, marks is the derived class. While deriving a class, we will be using single colon. So single colon will indicate the derivation of the class. So let us see the main program. Int main marks OB. So OB is the object created for marks. Marks is the derived class. Read, ob.read, that means we are calling the member of student class, that is read. Then we are calling read1, that is the member of marks. Then we are calling the display function, then display1. So there is only object created for marks. There is no object created for student. Student is the base class. That means, so we need not create an object for base class. With the derived object, we can access the members of the base class as well. So let us see the sample run. Enter the name. Name given is Rajan and some number is given, marks 95 and 98. So the roll number 124 Rajan and total marks 193 is displayed. So similarly you can give the different input and then you can check the output of the program. See, you need not create a object for the base class. Only you have to create object for the derived class. By creating the object for the derived class, so it is possible to access all the members of base class. So you need not again create the object for the a base class. From derive object itself you can access. So this is how you can implement single inheritance. Hope you have understood today's programs. So you can have a practical experience when regular class starts. You can execute those programs and check the output what you have obtained. So hope you have understood well today's topic. Thanks for patience listening, my dear students. God bless you all.